Okay, let's talk about PwC and China and what is arguably one of the largest audit failures of all time. And isn't it appropriate that we were just talking about the misaligned incentives of auditors on the show a couple weeks ago? Here's what happened. This month, Chinese regulators imposed a 6-month suspension on PwC's China unit and levied a record fine of 441 million yuan. That's about 62 million US dollars. And that's due to its audit failures related to China Evergrande Group. It is the largest penalty ever imposed on a Big Four accounting firm in China.
Can you pause and just quickly recap Evergrande again? I always forget. Is that the city, the buildings they built? And what was that?
Evergrande is one of the largest property developers in China and grew rapidly in China's urbanization boom. It also became one of the world's most indebted property developers, and its liabilities exceeded 335 billion by 2023. So Evergrande is buying all this money, or borrowing all this money, and building giant high-rises all through China. And you may have seen these videos of these high-rises that are just empty, entire cities that could house
abandoned cities,
a million people that are just completely empty and unfinished. Well, a lot of that is Evergrande. Basically, in 2021, Evergrande defaulted on its debts, and in August of 2023, it filed for bankruptcy. And PwC was the auditor of Evergrande for years. And the Chinese regulator found that the firm, quote, turned a blind eye, unquote, and even tolerated Evergrande's fraudulent activities during audits conducted in 2019 and 2020. So what was happening here is that Evergrande overstated its revenues by about $78 billion between 2018 and 2020. The regulator found that the auditors did not maintain professional skepticism or perform adequate due diligence. PwC issued false audit reports that inaccurately portrayed Evergrande's financial health. Many audit records were unreliable, and some properties were reported as completed when they were still vacant land during inspections. So the auditors went out to home sites. The land was vacant, and on their audit reports, they wrote it down as completed properties.
I'm just imagining this because, and I don't know what part of audit that's considered when you go do the physical inventory counts, but you have to physically verify things. So they went there. Is the building there? Yes or no? And they checked yes, even though it wasn't
lied.
there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty spectacular, actually, just how bad this is, like, for PwC. I want to find the detail. There was a number here, something like 88% of the work papers. I got to find this. Yeah, the CSRC, the Chinese regulator, they highlighted that 88% of PwC's observations, that's what they're called, observations, regarding Evergrande's real estate projects were either fabricated or inaccurate. 88%. PwC also excluded certain properties designated by Evergrande as off limits from its audit samples. So Evergrande told PwC on their spreadsheet, don't go look at this one, don't go look at this one, don't go look at this one. So this is a super basic fraud, and the auditors were completely in on it. That's what makes this truly atrocious. This is worse than Enron, right? Because in Enron, we saw Arthur Andersen turn a blind eye to a lot of the complex, financial engineering that Enron was doing. But it's not clear that the auditors were actually complicit in the fraud. This is like aiding and abetting.
Somebody says, "Don't look at this," and then you say, "Okay, I won't look at it." Yeah, you're right. You're aiding and abetting.
So Evergrande is reporting billions and billions of dollars of property as completed in order to recognize revenue, and it wasn't done. They're either incomplete or, not built at all. And meanwhile, they're stacking on debt. They're taking on more and more debt to pay the bills. And it's just getting out of control. And the auditors help them do this. PwC helped them do this. So what's the fine for PwC? You would think people would be going to jail, right? No, of course not. No individuals are ever held accountable for this. So it's like a $68 million fine. Is that what I said?
Or maybe what's it, 62 million?
60, something like that. And then PwC is, I guess, suspended from doing work for 6 months, which I don't know how you do audits with your existing clients if you can't do any work for 6 months. So basically, PwC China might be finished. But still, like, the only thing that's happened so far to the partners is I think like 6 partners were fired and 5 staff members were fired. So think of how many, like, hundreds of people must have been complicit in this. And that's it. You get fired.